All right, everybody, welcome back to Moldavite Mastery. We have Nassim back here. And today I want to share about a little fun experiment that we tested out incorporating Moldavite last week. And it was amazing. So today we're going to talk about it, Moldavite Reiki. So Nassim's headed to her phase 2 of Moldavite Mastery. This is where the business will come into form. Nassim, you want to share like a little bit about yourself and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. Thank you, Tammy, for having me on and introducing me. So yeah, my name is Nassim. I'm 34 years old and an energetic master, intuitive coach, and a Reiki healer. First and foremost, that's where I actually started. And then last week, like Tammy was saying, we experimented with bringing Moldavite into my Reiki healing practice. And I really want to share about it because it was such a phenomenal experience. And we're going to talk a little bit about it. So I'm going to throw it back at Tammy and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so okay. So I remember so when I first met you, I had no idea you actually did Reiki healing. I've never done a Reiki healing before. And so like being involved with all this Moldavite, I know it's a lot of energy. I didn't realize like how much more open Reiki would make my body, right? It got really, really intense. So do you want to give us a little background of Reiki and how it kind of works?
So Reiki healing works more on the body. So when we work with Reiki, it's more of like opening and closing. One of the first things I remember learning is about opening and closing of your chakras. So we go down the chakras and we figure out what's open, what's blocked. We're using a lot of intuition. And we're using also the symbols that we learn through Reiki to infuse everything with light energy. So Reiki is light energy. It comes from your hands. It can show up as heat. It can show up as different things. The more that you get embodied into it, you start to feel your hands tingling. You can actually sometimes see the light coming out of it. But with Reiki, basically, I remember when I took my level 1 and my level 2, it was all about learning how to connect with the body and connect with somebody else's body, and being able to work through the parts of the body that are blocked and the parts that are open, and then figuring out how to infuse them with the Reiki energy.
Yes, like show your hands, and for the viewers, like see if you can feel it. It's powerful. Even like I'm getting
now when I hold my hands up, I can feel heat coming out. It's like I'm emitting the heat to everybody.
Right. Oh, that's interesting. When you first held your hand up for our first interviews, and then I screenshot the photo for the cover, and those are some powerful hands. And it just makes so much more sense that like now you're practicing your healing with Reiki. It's yeah, it was pretty powerful and also intense because this is our first time like connecting the grids together. And but yeah, so a little bit like what happened, right? When you're working with Moldavite is trying to expand you to this expanded ascended state. And so here, all this chakras trying to open, it's open and closing. And then we got, let's say a block chakra, and then now it's open, and all these emotions came up, like all these memories came up. And I didn't realize how powerful I actually had all 3 grids open. So in a way, all these were coming up, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Like, so my sacral, so what we worked on is our sacral, right? So one thing about all this is that's really, really interesting. So we both came from the same teacher. Nassim and I started last year, we started at the same time. And I remember meeting her, and so in Moldavite was what really got us connected and worked together. And it was interesting because when, like now both of us are clear channels, right? So every conversation, everything we do is like, what does intuition say? And then when we check in on each other, like, that's how we operate, guys. When you become a clear channel, you just tune in, like, what does intuition say, right? So the sacral is all about connecting to our body, relationship with others, sensuality, and sexuality. So as Asians and even women in our lineage, it's very, very blocked. And so last week I just felt like, okay, I feel like something wants to come out of there, like giving birth to something. One is like my business, and two is like releasing all the blockages from the sacral.
Mm-hmm.
So we did like a quantum over the phone healing. Um, and so what did you sense over there, see when you did it? Kind of walk us through like what happened.
So I remember when Tammy told me, she's like, oh, let's do a Reiki healing and open up the grids, because I also had a grid open. And she's like, let's just connect the grids and we'll do a Reiki healing. And I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, but we're not, well, we live in different places. So first of all, that was like the first thing I remember. I was like, but we live in different places. How am I going to do that? But again, like Tammy was saying, when you're connected, right? And when you become clear channels, you start to receive messages through your intuition. So I started asking questions. I'm like, okay, is this possible? Yes, it's possible. Okay, well, how am I going to do it? And then I started receiving the answers. And as I received the answers, I was like, okay, I got down at least a little bit of an idea of how to move through a session online. And we did it. And we literally started with the chakras. So the first thing you do during a Reiki healing, whether if you were in front of me, is to start with either a little conversation, about the things that you might be dealing with, and then we step into your chakras being open or blocked, and we use a pendulum. And what I like to do is I like to add crystals to every chakra. So I have my little crystal box here. And I add a crystal to every one of the chakras, and these are actually infused with the chakra symbols for each chakra. And the stones are the colors of what the chakra should be, or the power that the chakra, gets from these crystals. So what I like to do is, if I don't have this with me, I use different crystals, but we'll put them on each chakra and then we'll check if it's open and closed. So the way to do it online, I connected to Tammy. I asked Tammy to connect to her. And then once I was able to connect to her, I literally was able to check with each stone whether the chakra was open or closed. And once we did that, we found out obviously the sacral was blocked. She already knew that, so we already kind of knew what we were going to work with. The thing is, I didn't realize how powerful it was going to be, even though she's not physically with me. With Reiki, we are so used to the person's in front of you, he's on a table, laying down on a mat on the floor, either like something, right? And we do a lot of moving with our hands, a lot of blowing on the person. Like there's a lot of energy that's being moved. So we take out old, we put in new. That's why you feel all those feelings and emotion, like a purge coming out of you, because we are removing, releasing, and then infusing with light energy. So I remember when I worked with Tammy, I literally had her point the camera at sacral. And that's how we did it. And then I started working. I started releasing whatever energy needed to be released. I started putting in energy where it needed to go. I used the symbols with that. And we had the grids open. So the grids were connected. So this is where the magic happens, right? So Reiki in itself is magical. Moldavite in itself is magical, but then connect the two and you're getting velocity with the magic. So if there's something normally would clear, that might take you time, that might take a little more effort, that might, take you through smaller steps. With this, you're seeing a huge acceleration. And then that is where I want you to share about how that felt for you, because I know that you purged a lot.
Yeah, so I had so depending on tuning into what grid, and this is what we're going to do for phase 2 of Moldavite Mastery, is set up different grids depending on each chakra, right? Because the grids I open here, sometimes I don't even realize how powerful they are. So, right, but the power, so intuitively, I was led to build up this grid with the Moonulista meteorite and then a ton of other Moldavites. And I had it right next to my bedside. And I knew something in the sacral had blocked. But when you start opening, so before the session, I just got into it I came in the room. I don't know why my heart was beating so fast. I kind of figured it out now. It was like one of the stones, like the phenakite. Phenakite is to activate the light body. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it was on the grid, and it told me to bring it into the room. And already when I brought it into the room, like I feel my heart racing. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just today, right? It was like raining outside, pouring too. So the sacred, I feel like for me was like blockage between my parents, my family. And it's so interesting because, after the 7-month journey, I came back home with them, try to help get back my feet as everything is evolving. Because I do feel like when you work with Moldavite, it takes you to like this depletion stage, starting over from your new self. And so one of my biggest things growing up, I'm the middle child, so I was always take care of my parents. Oh, and then if you're Asian or if you're like growing up, you're the one that's responsible for a lot of your parents' stuff. I know this is very potent in the Asian community, responsibility. But for me, I always felt like I had to take care of them, like read all the documents. When they opened their business, I had to do all the paperwork and talk to the attorneys and it was a lot of stuff. And I just had this really strong core that I couldn't let go, right? Couldn't let, like, if I let them go, someone's going to take advantage. Like that was my mentality. And it was so deeply ingrained that I walk around like unconscious about it. And that was all deep within the sacral. So when we open up the sacral, I just felt like all this energy coming through. Like it didn't really hit me until like I went into the Epsom bath salt after to ground myself. Because you did mention like, okay, now like Reiki, it's pretty powerful. You need to ground after this so that you can integrate back and release the old energy. Okay, so it was pouring outside, and but after the session, I went. So my parents were supposed to be home around this time, but for some reason, like in the shower, it was pouring outside, and they weren't home. Like a 2-hour gap, nothing from them. I even called my sister, like, hey, have you heard from parents? I'm like, no. So already that thought and paranoia came up. Okay, what's gonna happen to them? Like, okay, and then I had visions of like car accident. And then when I tried to tune in to connect with them, I couldn't. It was like in and out. So it was like terrifying. And so that all the emotions like it was coming up for me to purge. And with the purge, it's sometimes all you really need to do is just to feel it and let it out. And I was kind of panicking, but I didn't want to text my sister like, hey, I haven't heard from them either. Like, it was pouring outside too. And something told me, like, go put the grid away and put in the rose quartz. Like, put the main thing I put, the one, put it out, and then put in the rose quartz. Like I literally got out of the bathtub halfway through, changed up the grid, and then within 10 minutes later, they called. Like sitting in space, that was intense. Like I didn't realize like how deep those wounds and those cords were attached to my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you did the symbol too. Like it was interesting. So this is a good conversation to prepare those who are looking to get a Reiki session with the Moldavites and you. It's like kind of preparing them to like what can happen, like all these emotions coming up so that they don't go crazy, right? Sometimes it's really, really powerful. And one of the things that I think is really important for people who are watching who can relate to the story, like with parents, right? It's a form of also letting them go in a way that because we know that we have our guides, guardians, and to protect us, right? And there are times when I go on this journey and I go into places all by myself. I don't know. It's all really, really intuitive. What you see on the news, like, they found somebody like lost in the wood or something like that, right? Like camping on my own. And it's like, those fears would come up, but something was like guiding me, guarding and protecting. So one of the thought that came up was like, if you truly believe that you are guided and protected, what makes you think that your parents aren't? And so that really gave me some comfort. Say, okay, I gotta preach. I gotta do what I preach. And just start letting go. And so that, I think that was one of the biggest part for me. It's just letting them go and it's okay. So thank you for bringing that out for the Reiki session, because I had no idea how deep it was. Yeah. But I do feel like coming back home to a family, there was something to heal here. And came gushing out for me to sit through. Boy, was that intense. Like I cried in the back. And I texted you after, like, oh my God, what is happening? I did not think it was gonna be this intense.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with Reiki and Moldavite. That's what I was saying earlier. Like there's an intenseness and a velocity to it, right? You're bringing in the Moldavite naturally accelerates things because it's on a different plane, like we've talked about before, right?
Yes.
And bringing in the Reiki and the healing, and there is something, right? So with sacral, it happened with you that it's an energetic connection to family. It's something cultural. There's a lot of lineage there. It's the same thing for me, for example, coming from Lebanon and the Middle East area. We have a lot of the same similar cultural lineage things for women from the sacral, with sexuality, sensuality, being ourselves, all of that. So there's always a lot of word cutting to do there. And a lot of clearing, because we have so many judgments, point of views, conclusions that we've taken on from our lineage. Like that's not even ours. It's like for our parents, our parents' parents, our parents' parents, and we just carry it. So I find that depending on where you're from, also you'll find certain chakras keep blocking and you have to keep unblocking them, or you have to do more work than you would on other ones, because depending on what was culturally ingrained. And then DNA, remember, you're growing in your mother's womb. So you're in there for 9 months. You're taking on all that energy. She was in her mother for 9 months. She took on all that energy and back and back and back and back and back. So when you're able to just connect and to clear and to get all that out, yeah, it can be very intense and it can be very powerful. And sometimes it could take 2 or 3 days to just clear it all out, which is why I always tell everybody who does even if you're just doing Reiki, forget the Moldavite, forget everything else. If you're just doing Reiki, please take an Epsom salt bath or a Himalayan salt bath. If you don't have a bath, in the shower, just the salt in your hands from top to bottom. And I want you to wipe the energy away, because water is also another element that you clear with. Like when you're clearing negative energy, water is a great place to throw it, and then you throw it away. So you throw the energy into the water and you throw the water away. And you could do the same thing with like if you're trying to throw positivity, affirmations, whatever, affirmations into the water and then drink it. It's another conduit to clear energy, release energy, and like rebuild energy. So I always recommend people do the bath. That's always, I'm so glad though. I mean, I remember when I was texting you and checking on you, it made me so happy that you were able to make all those distinctions that you made, and you were able to clear what there was to clear, because now you're open to take on what's next, right? Going into
Right.
what's next and being able to be more connected to yourself, to your body, to who you are as a woman.
Yes. And then like with Moldavite, we have to learn to embody the mind, the body, and soul. So I got the other two down. It's like Moldavite's all up here, my body's all down here. So I feel like this is perfect for me to reemerge back with my body. That's probably it. That was it.
Yeah.
That just came through. So it's interesting. So now, like what we're gonna start doing with is playing around with the different formations of the grid, because what we started realizing that different people will show up when they have different grids open, right? So I'll give you an example. So my root chakra, my Shasta one, every time I have it up, I always could get this vision of something going viral, right? It's like fame and something going viral, and somehow my Hollywood sign always pops in. It's so interesting, like with a random comment. That's interesting. So different people will show up on different planes or different grids, and solar plexus, Joshua tree, for the ones who are watching Connected Joshua Tree, you guys tend to pop in whenever I have that grid up. And then the twin flame grid, it's every time we have twin flame up, twin flames popping into the people who are closely connected to me. And it's so interesting to see you guys come to me and say, oh my God, my dreams are my twin flames keep coming in. So it's very interesting. So now we're going to start forming this grid together and then testing it out with different Reiki sessions. And but yeah, so that's a little overview of what we did during the session. And we're going to bring this to life. So Nassim will be offering Moldavite Reiki sessions. And Nassim, you want to give us a little more info of that? And so like who can register and kind of walk through like, how do we know if it's blocked? Kind of give them an idea of what to look for. And then we just go from there.
Yeah. So yeah, Tammy and I are gonna play around with the grids and figure out how to. I know I've got. I know we were talking the other day about opening different grids to see when we're doing the healings how that's gonna work depending on the chakras that are open and closed, and we will do that. Now, first off, to know if your chakra is open or closed, generally you will feel closed more than you will feel open. It's just the natural way of being. Okay, because when something is closed, you feel a heaviness. So kind of like you would feel like if it was throat, your throat might be scratchy. It might be something around here where you're not able to speak, self-express. Like you'll feel a heaviness right here. You know, when you feel a heaviness in your lungs or in your throat, and you feel like you're like, what is that? It's like kind of like a tightness. That kind of comes from a blocked throat. If we're gonna talk about heart, it's again like it's kind of all the same feeling depending on your body and how you tend to feel things, but generally it's like a heaviness. That's the best way I can describe it. If you feel a heaviness, if you feel like pain in certain areas of your body too, like physical pain, but there's no actual real injury, that's another indication that there's either energy to be cleared or a blocked chakra or any of the above. Because remember, the 7 chakras are just the main 7 ones. So we have root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown. Those are the 7 main ones that kind of connect that line, right, to the universe and to the ground. So you do the grounding and then you connect upwards to your high self and to the universe. But you've got other chakras all over your body. So when you feel certain pains in certain areas, they are like a reflection of whatever's going on in the main one that kind of go outward. So if you feel pain, if you feel agitation, if you feel anxiousness, and really it's heaviness. If you feel heaviness in certain areas, headaches for crown, for example, third eye might be more like in this area here, like you'll get sinuses or like a frontal, like here migraine, you know, sometimes where you feel like the migraine is like right here. You can be like, oh, it's right here. I can feel it right here. Nowhere else in my head, just right here. Things like that. So you'll be able to tell. And then if you feel that, then definitely please reach out, and I'll be more than happy to work with you and we'll go from there. I actually have all my stuff up on the Acuity calendar. I'll send the link to Tammy and she can post it. You could do a mini session of like 30 minutes, or we could do an hour to an hour and a half session, depending on what you're looking for. I would tell you to ask your intuition. Ask your intuition, see what it wants, and then just go from there. You'll also find other stuff on my calendar. So go ahead and choose what you want. I'm planning a 7-week chakra course too, if you want to know more about that and how to heal with your chakras. And there's also coaching. So whatever you feel called for, ask intuition, and I'll be here to assist you.
I am super excited for you for Moldavite Reiki. I think it's going to be, I feel it's going to be it's just so powerful. Yeah, I think we're gonna wake up a lot of people.
Yeah. No, definitely healing is a base for me. Remember, I also do have a background in genetics. I have a background in pre-med bio, so like it brings on a lot of that wanting to be a doctor and all that stuff back in the day. So I'm very connected to healing people, and I like that I could do it on all 3 platforms. I could do it on a body level, on a soul level, on a spirit level, on a mind level, and that's what I'm called to do. That's my soul's purpose. So whoever feels called, I'm here, and I'd love to be a part of your journey.
Yes, trust your intuition, guys. That's all we gotta say. Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up for this session. We're like excited to share with you about Moldavite Reiki. I
Mhm.
think we're probably one of the first frontiers to do this. And wow, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited.
I'm so excited.
Okay, so I'll put every Nassim's information in the description if you are interested in more. And then yeah, that's it we have for you guys. Anything else, Nassim?
No, that's it. Love and light to everybody.
Love and light. Bye, everybody. Have a good day.